everyone. Welcome to On the Ring Apron. I'm Kia, and this is...
Hey, I'm Steve. How's everyone doing tonight? We enjoyed ourselves another very exciting week of WWE. So we wanted to, come out here Friday, share a little bit of time with you guys as we go ahead and conclude the week that was brought to us by WWE. I will say, though, that in comparison to the last couple of weeks, maybe a little bit of a sleeper week this week with one very notable exception in the middle of the week, but we'll be hitting that shortly. Mm-hmm. First things first, we do want to give yet another shout-out to our Mania Club main cast, including the guy leading our Zoom instruction, DeMario. If you want to follow him on Instagram or Twitter, it's me, DeMario. I'm sure you guys can figure out the spelling or whatnot, or it'll show up in your feed if you see it at that point. But he ended up allowing us earlier this week to be able to have an extremely fun Zoom meeting with both Killian Dane and with Nikki Cross. Absolutely a complete joy to be able to be around. Nikki is everything that we expected her to be, and a whole lot more. Killian very comical, and a love of soccer on his part as well, especially English soccer. So they were an absolute joy to be able to talk to. Mania Club, as you have probably heard of them, of course supporting Connor's Cure. They get a lot of notoriety, especially in September during Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. Yeah. But we, like to be able to, do whatever we can with Connor's Cure, and we certainly encourage you to do the same. So that is our sponsor for this evening. So make sure you take the time, go check out their work. Of course, Stephanie McMahon and the Helmsley family behind it. So definitely take the time to see what they're all about. But let's go ahead and jump to the highlights for this week. We start off with, of course, Monday Night Raw. And, it started off with a very interesting note as our WWE Champion Drew McIntyre taking the time to be addressed by his opponent at Extreme Rules, Dolph Ziggler, and bringing a rather familiar face, certainly unexpected, in the return of Heath Slater.
You know how much I love Heath. He's been around since the Nexus, and I think, if I got it right, he is the only one that's still here from the Nexus. But with that being said, I would like to say that touched my heart to have him come back and to have him, if that was his, swan song, or as you want to call it, curtain call, to have him come back and have one more match with his 3MB brother, Drew McIntyre.
Well, that is an interesting point. Of course, she's referencing the fact that what was basically an absolute throwaway group, if you go back 5 or 6 years ago, 3MB consisting of Jinder Mahal, Drew McIntyre, and Heath Slater, forming 3MB. Two of the three have been fired by the company, come back, and have eventually become WWE Champion.
Exactly.
Very surprising, I think, that Jinder ended up being the first of the three.
Yeah.
But in the end, two of the three come back. Slater, because the match was very quick, very to the point, it leads you to believe that this was kind of a farewell to arms. You're getting a chance to have one more match with your friend, ending your WWE career on a good note. But a lot of people have been petitioning behind the scenes to try to get Heath back. Maybe it'll work. We'll see.
I mean, for me, and it was good that he put himself out there. He put his heart out there. And yes, we all know Heath as the jokester. He's been the jokester since he's arrived to the WWE. But in all seriousness, he spoke of if you know the reference, I've got kids, people would think he's had 5, 10, 15 kids when in all actuality...
He said 22 on Raw.
In all actuality, he has 2 beautiful girls that he is just very much in love with, and you can clearly see that. But what I liked about that whole segment, outside of the, back and forth, I liked the respect factor that Drew had for him, with it being his 3MB brother, and the fact that, if it's a swan song, it was a good way for him to go out.
Right, and a nice little play into the storyline of Dolph, playing with Drew's emotions. Of course, Dolph holding the ultimate ace in his pocket with the ability to be able to choose the stipulation of Extreme Rules. He stated this week, I'm waiting until Extreme Rules to be able to tell you exactly what kind of match we're going to be in. So it'll be interesting to see what Dolph picks. Continuing on, of course, as we mentioned last week, because it was pretty much the title of our show, it slowly turned into the Sasha and Bayley show, or Bayley and Sasha show, whichever you want to lead the way.
Sasha?
Okay, well, we'll see. If that gets Bayley watching, I'm all for it.
Yep.
But they ended up coming back out to, of course, run their mouth on Asuka, as they expected, as Raw, of course, for an entire week had been setting up the champion versus champion match. SmackDown champion Bayley against Raw champion Asuka. But Asuka, also with a little bit of a surprise up her sleeve, similar to Dolph earlier, bringing back her Kabuki Warrior partner, Kairi Sane.
You don't understand how excited I am about her coming back, because we've heard, that she may not be sticking around, but the fact is, I'm glad to see her back. I'm glad to have her back, and I just hope that there's big things in the works for her. I mean, honestly, yes, I love Asuka holding the title, but I would love to kind of see Kairi with the women's Raw title at some point. Honestly, you know how I am. I was a big fan of hers when she was in the Mae Young Classic, and now to know that she's back, I'm excited.
You're sitting on her signature somewhere. Pop up real quick.
Oh yeah.
We have the seat from the Mae Young Classic, and it's signed by all the people that were out there. Thank you very much, Miss Anita, for letting us get this chair the last time we were down in that Orlando area. If you haven't met Miss Anita Smith, just an absolute sweetheart. She's the older lady who's usually at most of the NXT tapings. You can find her on social media, of course. Just an absolute sweetheart, wonderful to talk to, and funny. That's something that I think a lot of people don't know about her, but that woman is funny as ever.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kairi, of course, very much, her future with WWE very much in flux. There was a lot of rumor going around that she's done. The injury that she took from Nia Jax a couple of weeks ago is bringing her down, and to the point to where she's ready to go home. Of course, with COVID-19, transportation a bit difficult. But she seems to have come back with a smile and a renewed spirit, and now all those reports going, maybe not so set in stone after all, and maybe they're going to set up something for her. We'll see.
Well, I mean, you have to look at the type of person she is, and I even said when she was doing the Mae Young Classic, she is very tiny, very small, but she's got like the heart of a champion. She's like a fighter through and through. So the fact that whatever had happened to bring her back, again, I'm glad. I don't think you could find anybody else who's more excited than me.
Exactly. So you end up with, first of all, beginning at the end of that segment, you get another dream match that you would picture with Kairi getting a chance to go one-on-one with Sasha Banks in what ended up being a fantastic match. Of course, it didn't end cleanly, Bayley getting involved. Very similar to Bayley's involvement with Sasha's match previous with Io Shirai. But it ended up, all being part of the storyline, and I'm kind of glad that one maybe didn't end cleanly. I would have hated to see one person have to take a loss when both are getting pushed so well.
Exactly.
This, of course, led into the main event that evening, which was the champion versus champion. Sasha and Bayley opening their mouth backstage and basically accepting a challenge of the Warriors that if Asuka was to beat Bayley, that they would get a shot at the women's tag team titles next Monday, and Sasha and Bayley basically one speaking for the other. It seems to be a trend as of late. But, of course, they accept. Bayley ends up losing to Asuka, and ultimately now that means on Raw this upcoming week, they're going to be back at it again, this time for the women's tag titles.
But here's my thing. I like the fact that, you've got both you're working together as best friends and as champions, and you're doing everything. I like the whole smack talk. I'm a big smack talk person, so the fact that Bayley is doing it so well as Sasha, it just makes me want to watch whatever show or brand that they're on every week. I'm sorry to say, but if that's the reason I tune in every week, you got me.
The fact is they're putting out ratings, and the fact is it's been proven not just on SmackDown but also on NXT and on Raw.
Exactly.
When Bayley and Sasha's music hits, all of a sudden that viewership number goes up, and it's happening on a consistent basis. They are a ratings draw, and hence why they're probably going to keep those tag team titles around their waist for a while. You could potentially still put them on the Kabuki Warriors for a week or two. So that's not to say that it's a foregone conclusion that Bayley and Sasha are going to retain this Monday, but it certainly opens the door for them to be able to lose them, knowing that they get to come back, they get a rematch, and potentially be able to win them back without them ever actually falling off the show.
But here's my thing. The fact is, and I know we've spoken of it before, they're doing 3 different shows with 3 different storylines. Tell me another tag team that is doing that or can do that. Maybe outside of the New Day. But, no, not really. Tell me another female best friend group that's actually doing that. I'll give you time.
I mean, only group I could think of that even remotely comes close would have been the Iconics, but... the Iconics did it to a certain extent, a little bit when they held the titles a year ago, but not quite to this level. They're putting not just themselves, but they're also putting the entire women's division on the map.
Exactly.
So you can't argue with what they're doing.
No, you can't.
The other big story coming out of Monday Night Raw, and the one that your boy over here has been waiting on is finally the introduction of the new United States Championship belt. Granted, it is currently being held by a non-champion, but MVP introducing what will become the new United States Championship following Extreme Rules. A lot of people giving it some flack because, you know, it's not very colored well, but honestly, you get a chance to look on like the WWE shop site. The lighting's a lot better there, and honestly, it looks fantastic. It's supposed to be, hey, we already have one on the way. You're going to see it on Top Rope Spoilers next week, so we'll get a chance to flash it off then. Personally, I know I'm in the minority. I like it, you know, but it needed to happen.
But yeah, it's been a long time in the making.
16 years.
Yeah, see, a long time in the making. For me, I feel like, why not have a new one, and it's updated, and I personally, and I know I'm going to be in the minority, any title that has come out minus the 24/7 champion, I've liked. Like the Intercontinental, I know when people were giving that flack, nobody liked it. I liked it. The US belt, it's going to get flack. We know it's going to get flack. I like it. So, I mean, hey.
That's what I was sitting here thinking, because I remember how many people gave a lot of crap to the Intercontinental title when it premiered a couple of months ago, and yet now everybody wants to, wants one. Everybody wants to talk about it. It's going to happen, okay? But change is inevitable. And the thing about it is that these titles, typically they rotate about every 4 to 5 years. Historically, about every 4, 5, 6 years at max, they bring a new championship title to give it kind of a new feel, a new flair, whatever you want to call it. This United States title had been in play for 16 years, dating all the way back to the WCW days.
Oh my gosh, that's a long time.
That's a long time for one belt to have the same look. Also, of course, being notably the only singles championship to not have side plates on it as well. Kind of left that one hanging. If I could comment once on it, and when we get a chance to see it on Top Rope Spoilers, or maybe I'll throw it in a plate exchange here coming up, the coloring at the top where the stars are, I wish they'd put a blue background behind it, but I mean, we're talking something very minor here, and perhaps something that changes up. But hey, we've got one on the way. Top Rope Spoilers, I know at the minimum you're going to get a chance to see it, because MVP has already earned a United States Championship match against Apollo Crews. That's going to happen at the horror show Extreme Rules, where we assume that whoever wins the match at that point will take over using the new United States title, and hopefully we'll see some new plates. Well, we got to, because neither of them have any.
Exactly.
So, we'll see where that's interested to go. Monday Night Raw putting on what I believed was the second best show of the week. But hey, let's move to what we thought was the show of the week, and why shouldn't it be? Again, it's NXT. Two main things to come out of it. The first thing, of course, was the initial Smack Talk right now setting up next week's championship match between Tegan Nox and Io Shirai. Nox, playing very well on this comeback story. Of course, she tore up her knee, very badly in the second Mae Young Classic. Ended up wrestling an additional 10 to 12 minutes on a torn ACL, which for anyone who's had one, I've had one. It's very hard to move laterally when you have that. So the fact that you can wrestle for 10 to 12 additional minutes is no small task.
But that shows you how strong these competitors are. When you get an injury, no matter what it is, the fact that you can wrestle anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes with that injury, it just only says, it speaks volume about you.
Exactly. And you hype up the fact that Tegan is not going to take Io lightly. She knows she's the underdog. She knows she's not the favorite to win this match. And then also a very nice return segment from Io as well, stating, I respect you, I like you, but this is my NXT. I'm not going to let this title go without a fight. You're going to have to take it from me if you want to win. I'm really thinking that they are setting the bar high. Rightfully so. I mean, this is what the women's division does. Is it seems like every time one gets here, the next match seems to be right up here. I'm going to have a chance to backtrack that statement here in a minute, but we'll get there. But I'm looking forward to where this is heading.
I liked at the end of her video package promo, I liked the fact that she said, "I'm stronger, I'm faster, I've got the shiniest wizard." I feel like, with that being said, she is ready for this competition, and I'm all with you. You know how much I love Io, but at the same time, I love the fact that the women in NXT are so strong. They compete so fiercely, and they use every match as if it's their last to show their skills.
Right, and Tegan understands, that she's stronger and faster, but I would argue that from an overall wrestling career, this is the biggest match of Tegan Nox's career. And she has to truly see, is she ready for what will be the brightest spotlight that's ever been on her when she takes on a person who has had a very notable set of wins over the last couple of months, beating both Charlotte and Rhea in a match, and then also getting a victory over Sasha Banks as well. Very few people hold those kind of numbers, especially within a month. That you've taken out 2 horsewomen in a period of 3 weeks, plus you add Rhea Ripley in there as well. So, Io is, I would argue, the best she's been since she got to NXT. Tegan is going to have to climb quite a hill in order to do it. The question is, can she?
I believe so. The way they set up these video packages for the women of all people, I think this is going to be a great match. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, unfortunately, this is our last filming of any kind before we get to their match next week. So, who you got? If you had to pick right now.
Io. No, there's no question.
I want to pick Tegan so bad because I want that comeback story to be perfect. I want it to be there. But I got to agree. I think Tegan's going to put on arguably the best match she's put on since she joined NXT. I don't think it's going to be enough. I do like Io to retain as well, and I do like it to be clean. These are 2 people that are playing face roles. I think it was actually kind of surprising that Tegan took the Fatal 4-Way a couple of weeks ago, but ultimately I do think Io retains as well.
Hey.
But then, of course, it leads to the match everyone's been talking about. 3 days later, we're still talking about it, and I can tell you right now, giving a little bit of a spoiler, nothing happened on SmackDown tonight that made us stop talking about what we saw on Wednesday. And that was, of course, the champion versus champion winner-take-all match between North American champion Keith Lee and NXT champion Adam Cole. Cole stepping in his 403rd day as NXT champion. Of course, for anyone who hasn't seen it, too bad you've had 2 days to look at it, so we're spoiling it. And anybody who also watched Plate Exchange right behind it not only got to see my new do, but also had an opportunity to witness history as Keith Lee wins the NXT Championship while also retaining his North American title, becoming NXT's first double champion.
Well, what kind of got me, and I know that we were warned, if you're on the internet, try not to view any of the spoilers.
We even told you that last week, right here.
That's probably why I was off my phone so much, because I didn't. I was pulling for Keith Lee, for anybody that wants to know, but I didn't want to see the spoilers. I didn't want to see anything. But the moment we started looking at the match and we heard the number of how long Adam Cole has held the NXT title, I knew he was going to be losing it that night. And I'm sorry for that, but I loved the respect factor after the fact.
I'm not sure there's a person in the current NXT locker room, male or female, who deserves this accolade more than Keith Lee does. He has been thrown into the fire since really just before Survivor Series last year, and every challenge against the biggest names that WWE has to offer, he has gone in there and has torn the place up while doing so, even if he loses.
We've seen him go against my baby. You know how much I love Finn. We've seen him go against Finn, and we've seen him go against Roman, and we've seen him go against Adam Cole. And the fact is, if you can get respect from everybody on all the brands across the board, I'm behind you. I don't see how you know.
And you even saw the respect factor in the photos following NXT. Having of course Triple H doing his patented, point to our new champ picture. His girlfriend Mia Yim coming out and giving her celebratory with her man, Keith Lee. A handshake from Adam Cole, which playing the heel role, you normally would not expect that. But I mean, it was a very good match with a clean, very clear-cut winner with Keith Lee beating Adam. And Adam Cole shaking his hand. One has to wonder, is this possibly Cole's curtain call from NXT? Because, I mean, what does he have left to approve in NXT?
But you have to think, when he got here, when Adam Cole first got here, it was, who is this? He's fine, but can he really live up to the hype of his name? Baby. But and my thing is, and the fact that he's held that title so long only proved he was able to live up to the hype, and he did it very well, being thrown across all 3 brands.
Right, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with him, because, I mean, every championship that you can win in NXT, he's won it. He was a tag team champion, he was a North American champion, he was the longest reigning NXT champion in history. So, I mean, he has nothing left to prove there. If he wants to stay, by all means, that's his prerogative. But, I can't imagine that he does not immediately hit main event status if he decides that the time is right to move to either Raw or SmackDown.
Well, since that's a segue, let me ask you a question. If you could see him on either brand outside of NXT, which brand would it be?
It needs to be SmackDown, only because of the fact that SmackDown desperately needs some help over there. As was proven tonight, and we'll be hitting that in just a second. But congratulations, though, to Keith Lee for winning the championship. Some definite, you can already see the long list of, potential NXT dream matches that you could see now having either the North American or the NXT Championship, which means basically anyone on the NXT roster he's got the bullseye from everyone on him.
But the person that we've seen has been Karrion Kross, and if you've looked at the match at the very end, who is standing up in the press box?
The production area, yeah.
It's Karrion Kross and Scarlett.
Yep, and and they've made it very clear they haven't objected to anything, saying I'm coming for whoever wins the NXT Championship, and I don't think that's changing. But even as good as Karrion has been, Keith is certainly not going to lay down and just drop a title he worked so hard to get. But also. As Becky learned very quickly, as Seth has had to experience it earlier in his career, being a double champion means double the work, and you got to be a workhorse to get it, and you got to be an even better one to stay that way, because most double champions historically don't stay double champions for long. So, having to possibly go out and defend not one but two titles in any given night, that's no small task.
Let's not forget another double champion, Bayley, as well. She has a target on her. So, with that being said, with those two titles, just expect that many more matches.
Exactly. But hey, Keith Lee, another ratings draw, a guy everybody loves. One stat that I want to throw out before we hit SmackDown, though, was the viewership numbers this week.
Yes.
It was as we mentioned earlier, the ending of the Lee and Cole match was spoiled due to a photo that came out showing Keith Lee standing in the ring with the confetti and both belts, being held up. And this was spoiled well over a week before, the match was actually set to air. And, people on AEW, also one primarily Chris Jericho, made it a point to make sure that everyone knew about it. And they're like, you already know what's going to happen. You already know who's winning. So you don't need to go watch it. You need to come watch AEW. You need to come watch, whatever else is on that night. You don't need to watch NXT. The problem is, though, is that NXT during that half-hour segment with that drew the biggest numbers NXT has all year, COVID or not.
Yeah,
It drew its highest rating for any match that had taken place, even despite the fact that it was very well known who was going to win the match.
But when you tell anybody, and it's not just celebrities, it's everybody, when you say, don't go do that, what's the first thing you're going to do?
Exactly.
You're going to go do it.
Human instinct is to do the opposite of what you're told, reverse psychology. And the problem is, though, is that Jericho, just using him, but it was many other people within not just AEW, but a number of other promotions who did it. Jericho sat here, he was with WCW years ago during the Monday Night Wars, and this exact same thing happened on the night that Mick Foley defeated The Rock to win the WWF Championship, and everybody jumped from WCW over to watch WWF when they spoiled on their live show that Foley was going to win the title that night, and then you did virtually the exact same thing, and the same result happened.
Exactly.
So it's one of those that don't learn from their history,
repeat it,
doomed to repeat it. So hey, right now, that's a couple of weeks in a row that NXT has smoked AEW, and this time, you can't even say, it was because Sasha and Bayley. Sasha and Bayley were nowhere to be found on NXT, and yet their numbers blew them out of the water.
But Triple H is sitting in the back with probably just laughing his butt off that.
Well, you got to smirk a little bit, because him and Jericho have always had a very colorful history. From a personal standpoint, but from a business standpoint, he's come out and said, look, I'm not worried about what everyone else is doing. I'm going to put out the best show that I know how to do and let everyone else figure it out. They got to catch us, not the other way around.
There you go.
So I like it. NXT, once again, sets the bar, but hey, what else is new? We move to SmackDown this week. This may be the shortest segment that we do ever when it comes to it, because there was not one thing remotely interesting tonight about SmackDown. They ended up re-showing the first matchup back at Money in the Bank between Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt. So that basically killed about 25 minutes of the show. They ended up having a karaoke contest between Naomi, Lacey Evans,
Tamina.
Dana Brooke, and Tamina. Tamina didn't even sing, which led to a very short 2.5-minute impromptu match between Naomi and Lacey Evans that ended up resulting in a DQ, basically just almost a 20-minute waste. A relatively decent Miz TV segment with Jeff Hardy. I will say that was entertaining. But unfortunately, when the first segment of the night is your highlight of the night, that's probably not a good sign.
Do you think Miz and Morrison would expect any less of their viewers?
It's the most watched WWE talk show in history.
Hey,
it is? Come on.
Awesome.
Can you hear him? Miz TV.
TV.
Yeah, can you hear him?
Hey,
I
hey.
can hear him. Ho,
Ho,
ho.
ho.
But, you end up looking at everything that happened, and you can tell this was an episode built for, built at a time in which you're trying to move towards a pay-per-view, but you're not within a week of it. But it honestly was just an absolute snooze. Comment saying AEW will always be better than NXT in my book.
That's opinionated.
That's opinionated. Again, we premiere we talk about WWE here. I know there's shows out there that talk about AEW. We're technically not against AEW. We appreciate a lot of the folks that are over there. They've got a lot of good talent. But the reality is this is the show we choose to talk about. And, stating the rating numbers that they had on NXT wasn't a shot at AEW. It was just flat out fact. They got smoked this week. Now, that's not to say they won't come back out and do better next week. But this week, they gotta take their lumps and go home. But getting back to SmackDown real quick, the one that bothered me, and this is where we're gonna talk. This is gonna be like our talking point this evening as we kind of wrap up the show, is the karaoke segment. Really, it bothered me because it had every feeling that the women's and everything they've done for the last 5 or 6 years took a humongous step back. I mean, we're talking like they didn't just step back; they fell down a cliff back.
But here's my thing.
Because of this 10 to 15 minute segment, it felt rushed. It felt like we need a time gap. It felt like they're here. We need to do something with them, and we don't have an idea. My thing with that is, and I was part of it. Like, you have to understand, when we were going to shows and the women would be the bathroom break. That's what this felt like tonight. I hate to say it, they were tonight. I cannot remember anybody who has followed our show knows we are humongous Naomi fans. We love Naomi. We love everything about her. We've stand her as long as I can remember since her FCW days. I think this may have been the first time in a very long time in which I turned the TV away during a Naomi segment. And I haven't done that in years, because usually anything she puts out there is at least mildly entertaining enough that it's worth sticking around. But tonight, tonight was an eye and an ear sore.
Here's my thing. We can't blame the four ladies because we know what they all bring to the table. I am not going to really sit here and say I'm pointing my fingers at the people that, record it and work with it. It's more of the lazy writing. They needed a time gap.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, unfortunately, it seems like, all the good writers end up in NXT, and that's why they continue to put out great show after great show after great show. And again, we're talking about, an NXT this past week that did not have superstars like Dakota Kai.
Yeah.
Did not have Dijakovic. Did not have Finn Balor.
Exactly.
Did not have, they did have Johnny Gargano. He got a match in there late with Swerve. You were missing a lot of NXT's big names and yet still had that ratings draw. But yet it seems like they're doing everything in their power to find somewhere to put everybody on SmackDown, and the reality is there's just not enough room, and I really feel like it would have been better served probably what they're going to do next week, and that is just put the four in a tag match, but at least they're doing something that is not taking a step back from everything they've accomplished. I feel like it was just a waste, especially seeing the talent that's in the ring amongst all four of them.
All four of them, and they're all excellent in my opinion. And I feel like, honestly, they could have left that out, and they could have found something better to do with them. Let's put it like this: you stated it last night. You could have put Lacey Evans and Dana Brooke together, and they could have done a women's tag. Or you could have, and that would have had Sasha and Bayley over. Or you could have done, family and family, Tamina and Naomi be a tag team and go for the women's tag.
Exactly.
But, I mean,
you're sitting here like, especially at this story, when you already know that they're facing the Kabuki Warriors on Monday, when you already know that Nikki Cross and Nikki Cross and Bayley have their match coming up. Like, those matches are set. So you didn't need to put Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross for the 35th time in a month in a match against Sasha and Bayley, especially if Bayley and Sasha are going to win. You could have put them up against either of those teams that you mentioned. You could have had Tamina, Naomi, Lacey,
exactly.
Dana. I mean, you pick your combo here, and you give them a match that is going to hit a high segment. You know, and you still could have Bayley and Sasha still win the match the exact same way. And that's why when you asked me earlier, like, where does Cole need to go? It's SmackDown, because right now they're the ones in desperate need of some help, because it's not just in the women's division. I mean, it's, you know, basically you have Sasha, Bayley, Nikki, Alexa. Iconics are on Raw.
Either way.
You know, so, and then it's like, and that's it. You know, like, the other four are there, but they have nothing for them, and nor it's almost like they've stopped trying. You know, so, you know, I hate it for the four because I like all four of them, but writers, do better. Okay, just flat out do better. Okay, if we were grading this would have been the first F I would have given any of the shows in a couple of weeks. You know, because a couple of weeks ago I was on this very show hyping up how the writing had gotten better since COVID started, but I'm thinking the writers just, I don't know if they lost the script as they were walking in the door to tape this one.
I think they fell asleep.
Something went wrong. But either way, do better, okay? Because SmackDown was a complete snooze. And you know, that's, I mean, I hate the fact that we have to end the show on that, because, you know, we want everybody to succeed. You know, those that are here, you know, and yes, we mentioned AEW a little bit tonight. You know, we're not sitting here saying that we don't want anyone over there to succeed either. You know, because there are a lot of people that are over there that used to be with WWE. A lot of people that are over there that may have not left WWE on good terms, but it doesn't mean they're not likable people. You've still got Chris Jericho, you've still got Pac, you've still got, of course, Jon Moxley, formerly Dean Ambrose. You know, you're looking at a lot of people that still have a great following and a great fan base here in WWE. Just because you're going to work for another company doesn't mean all of a sudden you're an evil entity. So, you know, I mean, I wish them all the success, and I really do feel like if AEW is, you know, going to, you know, it's going to thrive, NXT is the perfect competition to go up against, because I'll tell you right now, AEW would have smoked SmackDown tonight, you know, if they had moved to Friday. So, you know, maybe that's the plan. Maybe AEW needs to, you know, Friday Night Dynamite or something, you know, and maybe, hey, that's where it's at. But again, we're gonna wrap things up here for this week. A couple of side notes for you here. Of course, due to July 4th last week, we talked about there was no questions with the Queen. Well, of course, you know, we're not going to make you go minus an episode. So this weekend, you're going to get two of them. 2 episodes this week. We will have one that will go up tomorrow at 2 o'clock Eastern time. And then there will be a second one that will go up on Sunday. Don't know the exact time yet. We're going to see how the scheduling ends up working out. I do know the one that's on Sunday is going to have a special theme to it, so you guys will have something to look forward to. And then, of course, we move into next week, which is the lead-in week to Extreme Rules. You know, a couple of title matches next week. I know, of course, the Women's Championship on NXT being defended. The women's tag team titles defended on Raw. We got Kabuki Warrior plate, so we're ready to go if you know, something changes. And then, of course, our On the Ring Apron will be Friday with a potential chance for a segment change there as well. So we got a lot of exciting stuff coming your way. We appreciate everyone who joined us and who commented with us this evening. You know, we love you guys. You know, we love the interaction. We want you guys to keep that coming, because if we've got other things to talk about other than just what's on our script, then, you know, we can be able to coordinate with you guys. But, you know, this was On the Ring Apron. I'm Steve.
I'm Kia.
And you guys have a great rest of your weekend. We'll see you tomorrow for Questions with the Queen.
Peace.
And, you know, be safe out there. You can do your wash your hands intro.
Peace, love, and chicken grease. I'm hungry. I don't know where that came from. I'm just hungry. With that being said, love you. I'm going to go eat. Bye. Food. Food is on the brain.